Hello everyone, how are you today? So in this video, I'm going to show you how to make some calculations using some Excel functions such as the average, sum, count, mean, max, percentage, as well as division. So this tutorial will show you how to work with all of these Excel functions. Pay attention and I hope you will get it. The first thing I want to do is to format for clarity. If you look here, my activity or this test here started from C3. You would see that in the name box. All right. So here you would also see that it started from row 3 and column 3. All right, so the active cell here is C3. So this row 3 is my column headings, so I would make it bold. See, I selected all of it, which is my row 3, and then I will make it bold. Once it's bold, look at that row 3. You will also notice that the text in G3, right, which is total mark, spreads across to column H, or you can't see that mark properly. So what I need to do is apply the automatic formatting, which is to extend my column width. I'll place my cursor between G and H and double click. Now that value is the text in that G3 is showing clearly. I'll do the same thing for H, column H, so I can see the text in it. So I'll double click to extend the column width. Now for I3, you would see also above average mark. All right, we'll be calculating for that. But what I want to show you is that it spreads across to column J. All right, but there's nothing in J3. So what I'm going to do is, instead of extending the column width, I'm going to apply what is called wrap test. So I'll click on the I3. Now go to my home tab, the alignment group. You would see what is the wrap test. All right, so this is what wrap test does. Okay, so when you hear the word wrap test, that is what how it is. So I like what I see and I want it to be so instead of extending the column width. So I will little bit scroll up here. I want to calculate the total mark for student 1. So before I start making my calculations, I'll take this little time to explain what I'm actually trying to do. So here you will see this column C where I have student. This is student 1. These are the students in a particular class. All right, with the name student 1, student 2, student 3, up to student 8. So these are my student names. All right, with the column heading student. Now this student participated in a test, which is test 1, test 2, test 3. And now each of these tests, test 1 is over 50. All right, the total mark for test 1 is 50. The same thing goes to test 2, 50, test 3, 50. All right, so out of 50, this student 1 had 43 out of 50, and student 2 had 48 out of 50. That is the mark for this student. Now student 3 had 25 out of 50. The same thing goes for test 2. This student 1 had 39 out of 50 for the test mark, and the same thing goes for student 8 for test 2. His or her mark was 48 out of 50. Now the same thing goes to test number 3, where I have student 1 with a mark of 30 out of 50. Now the same thing goes up to student 8 that has 47 out of 50. If you notice, the cell E6, that is the active cell that you can see here, is empty. So you notice why I have kept that cell empty. So student 3 did not participate in test 2. So that's why it's empty. Now I'll go ahead to calculate for the total mark. So I'm going to click on G4. You'll see that in the name box, G4, because I want to calculate for student 1 the value total mark for student 1. And to calculate this, the total mark for student 1, which is total mark, you can see the heading there. To calculate total mark for student 1, I need to use the formula called sum. And remember, to apply any formula, to use a formula in Excel, you need to start with the equal sign. So I'm going to press the equal sign and type in sum, open bracket. Alright, then select from D4 to F4. So I'll click, hold, and drag through. Alright, so that is the formula that you can see there. Then I'll close the bracket. I'll either press the enter key on my keyboard or go to the formula bar and click on that enter check mark. So if you now look here, you would see that I have the total mark for student 1. Alright, so out of the test 1, test 2, test 3, the students scored 112 marks for the total marks. So this is the same thing that I want to do for student 1 to student 8. I'm just going to go ahead. I'll create another formula so you'll see it again if you didn't get the last time. So I'll place my equal sign, type in the sum. Sum is to calculate total, open bracket, then select from this time D5, drag through to F5, close the bracket and press the enter key. Okay, so here I'm going to use, I would have used the auto sum, the fill handle and autofill, but I can still do that here. I'm going to use the fill handle here and autofill up onto student 8. Alright, so this is the total for each of the students that participated in test 1, test 2, and test 3. Now for this heading called percentage pass, I now want to calculate for the percentage of each of the students. For the tests they had written, what percentage mark do they have? Because you can see here, some marks here are above 100. So we need to calculate for the percentage mark. So if you remember, you put the equal sign. Calculating for percentage, I'm going to click on G4 because that is the total mark for student 1. Remember the division sign. I'll put my division sign, which you can see there /. And now you remember I told you earlier that test 1 is out of 50. Test 2 is out of 50 and test 3 is out of 50. Now if you calculate 50 plus 50, that is 150. So we're going to be dividing the total mark of each of the students by 150. Alright. Then press the enter key. Alright, so you would see here that this is the percentage pass of this student 1, but remember that we are calculating for the percentage, and if you look here, it is in decimal places, so we need to convert this to a percentage. Now click in the cell like I did. I clicked on that cell that I want to convert to percentage. Go to the home tab, over the mouse to the numbers group, and you would see percentage there. I'll click format as a percentage. I'll just click on that icon and you can see it has changed to percentage. So that is how to apply percentage to values. Alright, so that's what I want. Now I have the formula. I would use the fill handle. As you can see here, it has changed to the cross sign. I will hold that fill handle and autofill to student 8. Okay, so you can see this is the percentage pass for each of these students. All right. So if you look down here, you will see that I do have some values, some tests here. So we'll be making calculations for all of this. Now the first one is the average mark test 1. Average mark test 1. So this is my test 1. So we'll be calculating for the average mark for the column test 1. Alright, so before I do that, I want to format this section so it looks really good. Like I did say, if you look here, you will see that in column B, the average mark test 1 spreads across to column C, right? So I need to apply the merge and center to all of it. Okay, so here I'm going to apply merge and center. Alright, I'll select this, which is B13 and C13, to merge and center it. Now I go to my home tab, alignment group. You would see that section, which is merge and center. I'll click the down arrow and choose the first command there, merge and center. The same thing I will do here. Select to C column, go and click on the merge and center. The same thing here. Select to this point to C column. I'm stopping at C column. Then I go to alignment group, click merge and center, select up to C column, home tab, alignment group, click on that, merge and center. Alright, so I'm doing that for all of that. Okay, so I like what I like what I see here. So I'm just going to apply, select the group of tests and make them bold. Alright, so you can see that you can select a group of tests and make it bold. So I'm going to extend. You can see it's not really showing, especially number of student test 1, not that clear. That is the test. So I'm going to extend the column width from column C, double click. So this is better for me. Alright, I'll scroll a little bit upwards so you can see. So right now I want to calculate for average mark test 1. So I'm calculating for this test 1. I want to get the average mark. I'll click here because this is where I want to calculate, and then place my equal sign, as you can see there, and spell average. You need to know how to the formulas of Excel. So here I'm going to type in average, open bracket. Alright, then I will select, because I'm calculating for test 1, up onto the student 8. Alright, I'm calculating for the average, and that's the formula. I will close the bracket and press the enter key on my keyboard. Now this is the average mark for test 1. Alright, so the average mark here is in decimal place. So I want to change this to 0 decimal place. So to do that, you can see that cell address, which is D13. You can see that in the name box. D13 is active. I'll go to my home tab, the numbers group, click that icon there and choose the more accounting format. What I want to do is to convert that number to 0 decimal place. So I'll click on that. Now this dialog box appears. Alright, so remember that is a number, so I need to choose from the category. I have to choose number. Now come to this section where you have decimal places. I do not want decimal place, so I'm going to change it to 0 decimal place. And once I change it, it formats it to 37, and that's what I want. Now the number doesn't come in minus sign, so I'll choose the second one, which is not negative, and click on the OK. Alright, so this is how I like it, not in decimal place. Okay, so I've calculated for that one. Now I want to calculate for average total mark. Average total mark. So I make that cell active. Now average total mark, from this column you will see the total mark here, the column total mark. So I'm going to calculate for the average total mark. So I'll place this there and put in my formula, or the function. It's called formula or function. I will type in the average formula again, open bracket. Now select, remember I'm calculating for total mark, so I'm going to do that here. Select from the total mark from student 1 to student 8. So I've selected that cell address. I'll close the bracket and press the enter key on my keyboard. Now again, I have to convert this to 0 decimal place. So I'll just go straight home tab, number group, back to that section, more accounting formats. Now I'm choosing number. I'm going to choose not a negative number, and here change it to 0 decimal place and click on the OK button. So that is set for my average total mark. Now lowest mark 1, lowest mark for test 1. All right, lowest mark for test 1. So I'm going to edit that side so it's quite clear on what I'm calculating for test 1. Now highest mark test 1 as well. All right, so here I'm calculating for the lowest mark for test 1, and this is the column for test 1, right? So I'm going to place here my formula. Remember, if you're calculating for lowest, the formula there is the mean. So I'll put my equal sign and type in mean, which is the formula, open bracket. Now I'm going to select for test 1 up onto student 1 to student 8, then close the bracket and press the enter key. Now let's see for lowest mark test 1. All right, the lowest mark there, I did also say you need to check integrity of your data. So that is what I'm checking right now. Let's check and be sure that this formula is correct. So in test 1, you'll see the lowest mark there is from student 6, which is 20. So my formula is correct. Now highest mark test for test 1, again, I'll place that there, press my equal sign. For highest mark, you use the formula max. All right, open bracket and then select. Remember, we're calculating for test 1. That's what that says, highest mark test 1. So I'm going to select and stop at student 8, then close the bracket and press the enter key. Now this is me finding out which student had the lowest mark in test 1. So it's student 6, and also which student had the highest mark in test 1, which is student 5. So that is correct for the highest mark in test 1, and this is correct. So my formula for that particular part is correct. Okay, so on D17, this cell, I will be calculating number of students test 1, number of students test 1. So in test 1, I want to know the number of students that participated in that test 1. So I'll be using what I call, or in Excel, a function called count. So what the count function does, is that based on a range of values, it will count how many in that range contains number. How many in that range contains number. So I'm going to click here as again, or as usual, I'll key in my equal sign and then type the count function, open bracket, and then go to my test 1. Remember, I'm calculating for test 1. You would see that number of students test 1. So I'll select from that D4 up to that section D11, then close the bracket and press the enter key. Now it tells me in test 1, 8 students participated in test 1, and you can see the number of students I have here is student 1 to student 8, which is correct. Now that is me checking the integrity of my formula. So that is the formula you can see in the formula bar. All right. Now in D18, number of students, test 2. You would notice that in test 2, remember I told you that there's an empty space there. You will know why I put it. So in a class, there's sometimes not all students participate in a particular exam or test or assignment. So that space is for a student who didn't participate in test 2. So I want to know how many students participated. Now I'm going to count for test 2 to know how many students participated. Now for test 2, again, I'll key in my equal sign and type in the command count. Like I did say, in Excel, you need to know how to use the formulas. Alright, so that is it, count. So I'll scroll a little bit up and select the range of values that I want to get my information from. So that is from E4, I'm going to select, drag down to E11. Then you can see that formula there, and then close the bracket and press the enter key. Alright, so let's see how many students participated. You would see 1, 2, alright, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. So 7 students participated because that particular cell is empty. So you can see also that the count function got exactly what I wanted to see. So that is how to use the count function. Now back to this section where I have above average mark. Okay, back to above average mark, you would see here the active cell there is I4. To key in the formula, I need to explain to you what I want to do. I want to show all students whose total marks are above the average mark. This is the average mark. Remember, we did calculate it, and over here it's 113. So I'm going to place a formula, and remember we do have a total mark here. So I'll place a formula and calculate 4 to show students whose mark are above the average total mark. So I'll put in the equal sign there. And this is my total mark for student 1. Student 1 had that total mark, right? Minus, this is the average total mark for this activity, so or this exercise. I'm going to click on that and press my enter key. Alright, it shows me a red, which means that student did not pass. Total mark was not above the average mark. Now it's the same thing I want to calculate from student 1 to student 8, so I can as well use the fill handle and run an autofill. So I'll click on that fill handle and copy the formula 2. Okay, so it's good I did this, and that these formulas are incorrect, so I'm going to delete it just in case you experience that I have to do it one at a time. The equal sign, G5 minus D14. I put my enter key. Alright, so this student, you can see the color there is 16, so this student had above average mark. So here my equal sign, then this is the total mark, G6 minus average total mark, which is D14, equals to, so this student didn't get above that mark, so it's giving me a red, which is fine. My equal sign, total mark for student 4 is G7 minus average total mark here, D14, the equal sign. So I'm going to do the same thing for all of the students to student 8. The equal sign here, student 5 total mark is 130. I do not type in 130. It is the cell address that is keyed in. So minus the cell address, which is the average total mark there. Enter key, so that is the value. My equal sign calculating for student number 6, that is the value, minus D14, which is the average total mark. Enter key. My equal sign, I'm calculating for student 7, that is the student's total mark, minus average total mark, D14, the equal sign. Now here I have my equal sign. I'm calculating for student 8, which is total mark minus average total mark value or cell address, that is D14, my equal sign. So the good thing here that you would notice is that for those students who had above average mark, it came in black colors. All right, so student number 2 had above average mark, and student 5 also had above average mark. Student 7 as well as student 8 had above average mark here. So it came in black colors. So those who didn't have above average mark, all right, give me in red color. So that is a simple way for you to understand how to make calculations. So for that above average mark, I'm just going to take it a little while once again so you understand what I actually did here. I showed all students whose total marks, this is a total marks column, whose total marks are above average total mark, and this is the average total mark here. So all I did is the total mark subtract by the average total mark, so I got the values on this column. Okay, so once you finish working on your activity or your exercise, I want to show you one more thing. So I'll zoom this a little bit so everything can show. Can show. So to show formula, all right, you would understand there are a lot of formulas that had gone into this exercise. To show formula, hover your mouse to the ribbon, the formula menu or formula tab, click on that. And here, the formula auditing group, over there you would see show formulas. Click on that, show formulas. And here, these are all the formulas that has been keyed into this activity. All right, this is the formulas that has been keyed into this activity. So if I had just did manual calculation, what I'm going to see here would be just numbers and not the cell addresses. So these are functions. You can call them functions, you can call them formulas. So here you can, these are Excel functions. Some people also call it formulas. All right, so these is how to show formula. So to take out the formula, back to the formulas tab, the formula auditing group, and there I'll click on that show formula button again, and that is out. Back to my normal page. The next thing I like to show you before I end up is to add a header to this exercise. All right, so you remember that I did tell you that there are 3 views in Excel. This is the normal view. By the taskbar, you'll see that particular normal view is selected. Now the next button there is the page layout view, so I'm going to click on that. Now this is what you see as a page layout view, and I want to add a header here. So by the right or left hand side, let's say for instance this exercise was solved or calculated by a group of people. Let's say students calculated this, and there are about 4 or 3 to 5 students who did that. So by the header, they can decide to put their names. That is to identify those who participated in solving this exercise. So at that section, I'm going to add student's name, student 1, student 2. So this represents student names and their student numbers. All right, and if there are more than 2 students who participated, they can further add in the next in the center section, say student 3, there student 4, and thereabouts. So that way anyone who opens this exercise can easily see the number of students who participated, not just the number but student number, student names, and student number. All right, If you found this video useful, you should click the like button, and if you haven't subscribed yet, kindly hit that subscribe button and drop comments in the comment section below. I'll be right there answering all your questions. I'll see you in my next video.